Well, hey fans, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Spoilers, and today we're talking spoilers for The Batman. Now, The Batman began as a DCEU project that would have been directed by and starred and written by Ben Affleck as that version of Batman, and it would have followed an older Batman going against Deathstroke, and of course, all the drama around that project that led to Ben Affleck leaving it completely. And then Matt Reeves came along and hired Robert Pattinson as his younger version of the Batman in year two, and it has him going up against the Riddler. And it is definitely a good noir detective thriller film, very reminiscent of The Long Halloween or Seven or Saw, that franchise. And it's not the best Batman movie ever. I'm going to start by that. But I did enjoy it. I believe I gave it an 8 out of 10 over on the blog. And just getting into it. And I'm not going to be able to cover everything because I don't want this to go on too long. But there are many things I did enjoy. There are some things I was kind of about. Now, my original thoughts on this film when Ben Affleck left the project, and I was like, okay, eventually they're going to have to recast Ben Affleck, but these movies are still going to be set in the DCEU, and that Robert Pattinson was going to play a young version of Bruce Wayne's character. And I thought that would have been a great idea, and I still think it probably would have been better to tie it in because we've had solo Batman films already, and especially with Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Like we've seen this story already, basically. And although that was year one Batman going all the way up into the end of his career, this is a year two Batman who is still kind of figuring himself out. And so let's basically get into the story. We don't get to see this Batman training to become Batman, so we don't know if there's a Ra's al Ghul that he trained with or if he has ninja skills. When you see him fight, he really looks more like a brawler, someone who's either self-taught or more of like an MMA fighter or a boxer. I don't consider him like a ninja. So, but we don't get any of that part of his backstory. Alfred does mention that teaching him how to fight, so maybe Alfred did have something to do with it as well. Typically in Batman lore, Alfred does have, at least modernly, Alfred, while a butler, he does have some military background in the United Kingdom. Who is not in this film a lot, by the way. Alfred is played by Andy Serkis very well. I loved his portrayal. He helps out Bruce a little bit, and yeah, they are kind of at odds, but I wouldn't say they're enemies. You know, he is kind of like a father figure to him, but yeah, he's not in the movie a lot. But yes, Robert Pattinson is a great Batman. I thoroughly enjoyed him. He is mostly Batman throughout this film. I think this is the most Batman is shown in a Batman movie. There's not a lot of Bruce Wayne, and even when he is Bruce Wayne, there's not a lot of Playboy Bruce Wayne. Actually, correction, there is zero Playboy Bruce Wayne. He is all brooding alone in his, uh, I guess it's a apartment in the city or a mansion in the city, whatever. Because like the original Wayne Manor has burned down, just like in the Zack Snyder version of Batman. There is no Wayne Manor, and the Batcave is like an old abandoned subway station terminal under Wayne Enterprises, I believe, or somewhere within the city. But like I said, I really enjoyed Robert Pattinson as his version of Batman. I really enjoyed his bat suit, and the thing that is really good about his bat suit and all of his gadgets, while there is some tech that he clearly purchased or got from somewhere, everything else, it looks like he put it together. Like his Batmobile is a muscle car that he souped up himself. His Batman armor is like army pants and greaves over boots and like top armor that he puts on with like a cape and some kind of glider suit he has underneath and a leather cowl, or it's mostly leather. There seems to be like a helmet underneath, but it all looks like he put it together himself, and that's great. And while I really love Christopher Nolan's Batman films, we do know that most of the tech he got, he just repurposed military gear that was in uh, Wayne Tech's R&D department. Whereas this guy, he's like, yeah, he put it together himself. And he does have like these journals that he keeps of all of his nights fighting crime. He wears contact lenses that record his entire night fighting crime, so that helps him remember what he saw and helps him solve crimes. That was a great addition by Matt Reeves. I truly loved it. Um, I really enjoyed the Batmobile in this. This is hands down my favorite Batmobile of all Batmobiles in the live action Batman films, I have to say. And it just looks like a muscle car. And that's I think, and the engine, when you hear it roar and the flames shooting at the back, it is amazing. It's not overly comic bookish. It's not some big tank. It doesn't really look like a bat. It's just a black muscle car. And it is awesome. I can't say that enough how great this Batmobile is. Um but yes, he's fantastic in the role, and his version of Batman is good. I do wish he was a better fighter. He really does just seem like a brawler, and he's barely making out of these fights, in my opinion. But he does well. It's not like he's getting beat up or anything, but it is more of a he's like barely a better fighter than some of these guys. Whereas when you see Ben Affleck take on like a whole room full of guys, it is a lot easier for him. But at the same time, that is an older Batman. You got Christopher Nolan's Batman easily taking on a room full of guys, barely getting hurt, and clearly we saw him being trained as a ninja. This guy, like I said, we don't see his training, so we don't know. The Penguin, not really in the film a lot, but man, the makeup department did a fantastic job on him because you really, unless you know it's Colin Farrell, you cannot tell that's Colin Farrell. Great character. Carmine Falcone, played by John Turturro. He's more of a background character, but he is really your secondary antagonist after the Riddler. I think they did a great job with him. Too bad he died because I really wanted to see more of him moving forward. He is basically shown to be the unofficial mayor of the city. Like, and to get into the plot, for those of you who have not seen the film, you do know this is a spoiler talk, right? So I'm basically spoiling anything I can remember. But for those who have seen it, you find out that he has some connections to Bruce Wayne's dad in this universe. Bruce Wayne's mom in this universe is from the Arkham family, from Arkham Asylum. And the thing about Arkham Asylum that I've noticed, it's called Arkham State Hospital, which in the Joker film with Joaquin Phoenix, it was also called Arkham State Hospital. So I think they're moving away from the asylum name for some kind of, I don't know, inclusive type of thing where they don't want people to feel like they're crazy if you have to go to like a psychiatric ward or something like that, so they don't like the term asylum anymore. So I think moving forward we probably won't hear the name Arkham Asylum anymore, I guess. But yeah, Martha Wayne's family, she was Martha Arkham, and they have a family of like a history of mental illness. Her mom killed her dad, and was it some of her siblings? I'm not sure. And then Martha herself, this trauma caused her to be in and out of Arkham State Hospital herself. But the families had a lot of money to keep this under wraps, and when she married Thomas Wayne, he kept this under wraps as well. He loved his wife, he loved his son, but a reporter found this out and was threatening to ruin his mayoral campaign by saying, "Hey, this guy's married to a crazy woman from a crazy family, and they've been keeping it hidden." And he's like, "All right, guy, come on, leave my wife alone. It, she has had mental issues. Here's some money. Just stop talking about it." The guy's like, "I don't want your money. I want to take you down." So that didn't work. So he's like, "All right, who's gonna make this guy stop talking? I know this mob boss guy." And he's like, "Look, make this guy stop talking, please. I'll do whatever it takes." And so Carmine Falcone, he alludes to that. All right, he went to the guy and said, "Look, the Waynes want you to stop talking. If you don't stop talking, we're going to do something about it." Apparently the guy still didn't stop talking, so Carmine Falcone had him killed. And now Wayne's like, "Dude, I didn't know you killed the guy. I feel bad." And he starts saying, "Of course I should have known you would have done that. What was I thinking? I'm going to go to the cops." Falcone's like, "No, don't go to the cops." So there is a connection there. Apparently at one time Carmine Falcone got shot in the chest, and instead of going to a hospital, he went to Thomas Wayne, who did the surgery to save his life. A young Bruce Wayne saw this and thought, well, my father has a Hippocratic oath. He had to save your life if you came to him. And whereas Falcone, no, he owed me a favor. That's why he did it. Your father was involved with me in that way, where he unfortunately got that reporter killed. Um, but that was a great aspect. So more along their connection. So of course, Martha and Thomas Wayne are shot in an alley. So we don't know who did it, and that is ambiguous throughout the whole film. Even when he's talking to Alfred about it, either he was going to go to the cops, so Falcone had him killed, so he didn't go to the cops about Falcone's crime family killing the reporter. From Falcone's perspective, uh, the other mob family, the Maronis, knew that since Falcone had the Waynes in his back pocket, that's going to give him more power. So he had the Waynes killed. And that's what Falcone says happened. And Alfred's like, it could have been Falcone, it could have been Maroney, it could have just been some mugger in the street. We will never know. And I love that ambiguousness of who killed the Waynes and why were they killed. And I hope to give us some closure to that. The only way I want this resolved is if in the final film of Matt Reeves' The Batman trilogy, if it was the Court of Owls who actually had him killed. But other than that, leave it ambiguous. It doesn't need to be the Joker. It doesn't need to be Joe Chill or any of that. Keep it ambiguous unless it's going to end up being the Court of Owls, which there are a lot of owls in this movie. So the Court of Owls are kind of alluded to. But there's that connection. Catwoman, Zoë Kravitz. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Best on-screen Catwoman. Best on-screen Catwoman in a film. She's better than Anne Hathaway. She's better than Michelle Pfeiffer. Better than Halle Berry. She likes cats, and she's kind of a thief, but not really a thief. She's Falcone's illegitimate daughter, and she basically robs him because like he had no relationship with her when she was a child. When her mom was killed, who you later find out was Falcone's the one who strangled her to death. Like he just let social services take her. He didn't come and say, "This is my daughter. I'll take care of her." And a little bit of deceptive media. There's a picture of her attending, I believe it's the former mayor's funeral. So she's walking up the stairs with him. In the film, is not her. It's a different lady. So they clearly shot that scene as a deception, or they decided to change it midway through shooting that nah, she shouldn't be attending the funeral with this guy. She doesn't like him. So that is actually a pretty interesting thing. Getting to the villain, the Riddler, he is really like Jigsaw in the way he captures his victims and sets them up in traps, and he doesn't try to kill good guys. He kills people who have done something wrong, either taken bribes or ruined the lives of somebody by just doing something illegal. And he thinks he is saving the city by doing this. That is his delusion. He is very much on a similar mindset to the Batman. He mentions this, like, that's not the real you. You wearing this mask. The mask is your real face, just like his mask. He wore like this green mask. That was his real face. And he just, yeah, he writes riddles, he writes ciphers. The Zodiac is also another good comparison to the way he behaves. So it's like if you mixed Zodiac, the Zodiac Killer, with Jigsaw, that is his version of Riddler, and I think that is a great interpretation. I don't know if you actually get his name. He has two cards. One says Edward Nashen, and the media says he's supposed to be Edward Nashen. So I guess that's what we're going to call him. But yes, a great guy. And he was an orphan, like Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne's like the only innocent person he tries to kill in the film, but it's because Bruce Wayne was, oh my God, this kid's parents, they were so good for the city, and now he's an orphan. And Ed and all these other kids are like, yeah, we're orphans too, but he's an orphan billionaire. Like, is that really a bad thing? I'm not to say like, is that a bad thing? Of course, his parents getting killed in front of him is awful, but he falls back on billions of dollars, whereas these kids fell back on nothing, and the city's not trying to help them. Like, especially with the Waynes before they died, they started this renewal fund, which was like $1 billion super PAC that's supposed to go to helping the city, but when they died, people started getting greedy and taking money out of it illegally, and Falcone took some as well, and they figured out this entire way to make it like nobody to dig into it by pinning the drug trade going on in the city all on the Maronis. Falcone, he ratted them all out, so that made everybody who was involved look like a hero. Uh, so that's pretty much how that all went down. So yeah, the Riddler found out all this information and did his best to take all these guys down, and he, at the end, his plan somewhat succeeds because he floods most of the city in a very cool event. Um, who else? Jim Gordon. Jim Gordon, he's not a commissioner in this film. He is a detective in the Gotham City Police Department. He works very closely with the Batman, even though the other cops don't trust the Batman because he's a vigilante. Um, but they seem to have a good friendship, even though well, Gordon doesn't know his true identity, but he does believe he's trying to help. I like the way that they seem very much like the odd couple, but they're a good team, and they've clearly been working together for at least a year now. Uh, and that was enjoyable to see. I really enjoyed Jeffrey Wright. Jeffrey Wright's the actor. He does a good job as our first black Lieutenant Gordon, and I just think it fits. It works. He has the mustache. Yeah, and I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to see more of him moving forward. Anything else? I mean, there's so much in this film. It is so packed. Going back to the Penguin, Tweedledee and Tweedledum work for him. They don't mention them by name. They just call them the twins. But if you know, of course, in the comics, you know that is exactly who those two are. They have this cool scene where they first meet Batman. He's like, "Do you know who I am?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he goes in, trying to get to the Penguin, fights through some of the people in the club. It's really cool. But yeah, and back to that bat suit. I really enjoy how it looks like he put it together. His grappling gun is like tucked inside of his sleeve. Uh, his like everything, the stuff on his belt, it really looks hobbled together, and it moves and it makes sounds when it moves. And like even when he's walking, like when he does that amazing car chase where he's chasing the penguin, he gets out and he's walking, the way his greaves on his legs jingle, they sound like spurs, like it's in some kind of old Western movie, like he's an outlaw. And I really dug that. Really dug that. It was freaking amazing. And just the score behind it, Michael Giacchino. He's the real winner in this film. He's the highlight because that score for the Batman is amazing. Everybody's individual like themes just work well. The way Gotham looks, I feel like it's a nice mixture. It's not too clean like Nolan's trilogy. Gotham did seem like a little bit too clean. And then you got the gothic Gotham that's in the old Burton movies. And you don't really get to see much of Gotham in Batman v Superman. But this feels like the perfect mix of all of that. It's like parts of it are clean, but parts of it are dirty. It's got like this old Victorian look, like it's kind of from the Burton movies, but modernized. Really enjoyed the way it looked and the overall setting and the feel of the city. It felt right. Something about it just felt right. Um, but moving forward, this series. Uh, Actually, I'll get back to moving forward with this series. The chemistry between Batman and Catwoman, really loved it. I thought they were an on-screen match, and I would like to see her come back. She goes to Bloodhaven, I believe, at the end of the film. So bringing her back somehow needs to happen in this series. The original mayor's son, who is corrupt, that kid needs to become Robin somehow, some way. I can't remember the mayor's name, if his last name was Grayson or Todd or Drake or whatever. That kid needs to become Robin just because of how, and it has to be a different type of Robin because his mom's still alive. So somehow he needs to just become a superhero. And I don't know what Matt Reeves' plan is with that, but yeah, I think that would be also a great way to wrap the story up. There's, like I said, there's just so much in this film to talk about, and I'm not going to get to all of it, and I do apologize. But that's just the way it is. So here's one thing. Like I said, like I'm talking about spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, don't listen. But Barry Keoghan appears at the end of the film in Arkham State Hospital. And when you hear him talk, you hear him laugh, you don't really see his face, but you know this is Matt Reeves' version of the Joker. And honestly, seeing it, I was like, I really don't want this. I do not want to see the Joker in this trilogy at all, really. I don't want to see him. I've seen so many Jokers over the years. I mean, his take could be great. His take could be great, and we could really love it. But it's like, come on, man, are we doing this again? Are we doing the Joker? Batman has so many rogues out there. We don't always need to fall back on the Joker. And he has mentioned in an interview recently that he wants to try and do like a realistic version of Mr. Freeze. Do that. Do that. That would be great to see. We've already seen Mr. Freeze, but if you're gonna try something different, please do that. I would rather actually see like the Court of Owls, like I mentioned before, or a lot of other villains that we haven't seen Batman go against yet. I mean, if he's doing a realistic, you definitely can't do a realistic version of Clayface, unless he's like wearing masks or something. But Batman has so many villains to choose from. I'd rather go that. But his version of Joker is more akin to what they did in that terrible Gotham show that was on Fox, where like he's cut off his face and sewn it back on. So you see that, and you kind of see like his red clown nose. Um, so that looks like the kind of version of the Joker he's going for. How he's in Arkham, we don't know if he's tangled with the Batman in the past, or if he's even affiliated with that gang of guys who have like the Joker paint on their faces. Those questions aren't answered. But yes, I think I would like it better if he's just there and we don't see him anymore throughout the trilogy. It's kind of like that is a Joker. Or if the trilogy ends, if the final scene of the third movie is like there's been a breakout at Arkham, some pretty bad guys got out. There's one guy who dresses up like a killer clown, and then Batman goes off, and that's how it ends. We never see the Joker, but we know moving forward that is the guy he's going to be after. Uh, so that would be good as well. Another thing about this film, like there are some things that you just can't believe. At one point, Batman gets knocked out, and so he gets knocked out, and like the whole time he's knocked out, the police take him from where he is and take him to the police station, and nobody takes his mask off to see who it is. Like, really? I don't believe that. I believe even if Gordon was there, they would try to find out who it is. Like even in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, like when that one guy tried to take off his mask, there's like an electric shock to prevent people from doing that. And I think if they had something like that, that would have been better if they explained, like, did you try to take off his mask? It won't come off. There's some kind of something preventing us from taking it off. I think that would have been better. I mean, I could go on for hours and hours, but I don't want it to be too long. But in the end, we see Catwoman. She gets away with that big pile of money. She's going to Bloodhaven. Batman's moving forward, saving the day. Penguin's going to become the new crime boss now that all the old crime bosses are either dead or in prison. Riddler's in Arkham State Penitentiary or hospital, whatever you want to call it, with the Joker. There's a new mayor. The city's still flooded. That's actually a cool thing. At the end of the day, like most of that city is flooded. So I don't know how like they're gonna have to fix the wall and pump all the water out. There's all the damage. I guess the Waynes are gonna pay for it, and that would help bring Bruce Wayne more to the forefront if he's the one helping clean up the city with the new mayor, and that's where you get that playboy aspect. Because maybe certain people start to catch on that he may be the Batman. Um, so that would be nice to see. Oh, and another thing about the Batman, I think they do very well. They show why people are afraid of him, and he even mentions that he's like, "Look, I can't be everywhere. I just can't." But people, when they see the symbol, they're afraid that I might be there because they'll show like Gotham's a dark city, so you look and there's like a dark alley, and you're like, "Huh? What if the Batman's there? I'm not trying to get beat to death tonight." And they just get really scared knowing of the possibility that he may be there, and they show it perfectly later when he does appear out of like a dark alley. So that is, you see. Another thing you have to suspend disbelief about, like when that one, like the DA, when he explodes, like Batman was way too close to not have any damage from that. That's where you're like, this is definitely a comic book movie. But like I said, overall, it's an enjoyable film. Not the best Batman film ever, but I'm excited to see what they're doing moving forward. It is a bit too long. It could have definitely shaved at least 15 minutes off this film. Matt Reeves should know better making that long Planet of the Apes final movie. So yeah, moving forward, he should not make them as long. I do also, after seeing this, like, I really want to see what Ben Affleck's version of the Batman is. They need to figure out a way to make that film. If that's a change the name or whatever, to see him going against Deathstroke in a more like comic booky world, you got an older Bruce Wayne. I want to see it, but congrats to the team: Michael Giacchino, Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, everybody involved. This, I don't see it getting any Oscars for acting, but score, soundtrack, set design, editing, all those others, it is definitely getting some Oscar love next year. So Warner Brothers has that to look forward to. But that is it for me, guys. Remember, you can view this spoiler review on YouTube and the blog, flipfrogllc.com/flixfrog. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit. And please, pretty please, everybody, hey, come here, listen. Make sure that you subscribe. Yes, subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, everything. Make sure you like, comment, and share. The next Let's Talk Spoilers will probably be Morbius, finally. I mean, come on, like, we've been waiting for this movie forever. We're going to see if Andrew Garfield actually appears in a post-credit scene. We will see. But until next time, I'll be seeing you.